So what's one thing you can do to take a girl who's so-so about you, or even a girl who barely knows you exist, and have her suddenly paying more and more attention to you, feeling more and more attracted to you, and eventually chasing you? That's what we're going to discuss in today's video. Hi, I'm Bobby Rio, and I want to talk about what I really believe is the #1 attraction trick that gets a girl more and more interested in you, even if, like I said, she wasn't that into you to begin with. This is something that I discovered way back in college, and what I've learned over the past 20 years is that it's really a universal trick. It's really a universal trait. It's the idea of being hot and cold to someone else. And I first read about this in a book, a psychology book back in college that was about making someone fall in love with you. And it's an out-of-print book now written by a psychologist. And it talked about this concept that when somebody's hot and cold to us, we begin chasing them more and more. And I actually liked the technique back then because I was really introverted and shy. And it was something that was pretty easy for me to start doing, right? Because I was like, oh, I can just be a little cold and distant today, and next time talkative. And what I found is that it worked. And having coached guys now and helped guys for the last 12 years with their dating life, I've come to realize something. It is universal, meaning the guys that come to me are often obsessed with a girl who's hot and cold. And as they explain the girl's behavior, I'm like, oh, she's being hot and cold to you. But what's interesting is I have a lot of coaches that I'm friends with that coach females. These are therapists, these are dating coaches that work with women. And the #1 issue that they find is that women are also chasing a guy who's being hot and cold to them, right? So hot and cold is universal, right? Chances are you've been attracted to a girl who's hot and cold. And there's a lot of reasons why hot and cold behavior makes us chase after somebody. And I'm gonna explain a few of them in a minute. But what is hot and cold behavior if you're not really familiar with it? What it is when, let's say you're with a girl and you're hanging out with her and she's laughing at your jokes and she's like talking about, a future. Oh, we should do this together. We should do that together. And she's kind of like really flirty with you. And then maybe you go to hang out with her a week later and you're with her and you just notice like something's a little different, right? She's not putting as much effort in. She's not laughing at your jokes as much. Maybe her text, right? Maybe sometimes you text her and you get this long reply. How's your day going? And she's telling you all about her day. Then the next time you text her, it's like crickets or, oh, LOL. And it's like two totally different behaviors. And just when you think, oh, this girl, she's probably not interested in me, you get like a selfie from her and you're like, what is she doing? Why is she so hot? Why is she so cold? What's going on, right? That's hot and cold behavior. And like I said, it's universally attractive, meaning it works on us. Like we chase girls that do this, even though we say we hate it. And women also say they hate guys that do it, but they still tend to chase them. So why does it work? Well, it works for a few reasons, right? One of the reasons that it works is because it taps into confusion. It taps into mystery, right? Part of us just wants to know, does she like me? Does she not like me? What's the deal, right? It gets us very wrapped up in our head trying to figure out what's going on. I always say it's like a movie that you're trying to piece together. I had a girl back in college when I kind of learned this, right? And I would just have a lot of fun with it. And she actually wound up hooking up with me. And she goes, I had to hook up with you just to find out if you liked me or hated me because I had no clue. Now, I was overdoing it back then. Obviously, you don't want to go as far as I did, but it just shows that when that really kicks in, it's really, really powerful. Now, another reason that it is effective is because people tend to value something more when they're not sure if they can have it, right? Meaning when you sense that a girl really, really likes you and she likes you all the time, all of a sudden you begin to go, do I really want her, right? You get that kicks in. Same thing with a girl, right? If you're always there and you're always hot, she starts getting used to it and goes, whoa, do I want this, right? When there's an alternating between hot and cold, she comes to look forward and anticipate the good times, right? Another thing, right? Another reason, fear of loss. When we fear we might lose something, we begin to put more value on it. We've all been there, right? With a girl where maybe there was this girl and you were kind of so-so about her, and all of a sudden she starts pulling away and you're like, whoa, I don't want to lose her, right? Well, women have that same instinct. When a man starts pulling away, something kicks in with them and they don't want to lose him, right? And being cold gives that impression that you may be pulling away. Another reason it works is because of ego, right? When somebody is really attracted to us and really hot towards us, it feels really good, right? And a woman has the same thing. When you're really hot towards her, she starts feeling like, oh, I'm special, I'm the shit, this guy loves me. But then when you're cold, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, am I not so special? Do I don't look as good today? And your ego kicks in, and all of a sudden you want that hot feeling back, right? You want her paying attention to you again. You want her admiration again, her validation. Well, women are the same way, right? When you're really hot and then you're not, she gets really, really confused, but she associates it a lot of times with herself, and she starts going, oh, is there another girl that he's with that's more attractive than me? She starts competing for your attention, right? There's a lot of reasons hot and cold work. The one thing I want to address about hot and cold is that you don't want to make it a manipulative type of thing, right? You don't want to emotionally manipulate a woman. That's not cool. But you want to be aware that too much hot gets boring to a girl. It loses your value, and more importantly, she begins to think about you less, right? When you add a little bit of cold behavior in, it gets her thinking about you more. And one of the things that I teach in the Scrambler is that the more you get a woman thinking about you, the more likely it is she's going to fall in love with you, right? But like I said, you don't want to make it a technique. But some guys naturally have a personality type that makes them not add enough of this sort of mystery to their personality, right? And I have a quiz that I recommend taking. You can click a link below, and it's 7 questions long, but what it does is it identifies your attraction type, meaning what type of guy you are, and it also pinpoints some of the mistakes you might be making when attracting women. So if you do find yourself losing girls, you might want to take that quiz to identify what could be causing it. Now, getting back to hot and cold behavior, there's really 2 ways that you can use this. You can use it to initially get a woman attracted to you. This works really well in like a social scene. And I mentioned, or a job, for instance. Anywhere where you're seeing the same girls, the same women over and over. I've used it, like I mentioned earlier, in college, where I would see a lot of the same girls in class or at parties. And sometimes I'd see them at, let's just say, a bar that we were all going to. And I'd walk up and, hey, how you doing? Other times I would see them and go, hey, and like kind of just like almost be too busy, right? And what I found is the more I did that over time, the more they started coming up to me and trying to get my approval, to get my attention. I did it, same thing in workplaces. I worked in a bar and a restaurant for periods of time, and a lot of my coworkers were young, cute girls that I worked with. And I would do sort of the same thing, right? Some days I would come into work and I'd be this, sort of the life of the party, in a good mood, talking to them, showing them a lot of attention. And then other days I would just kind of walk in and do my own thing. And what I noticed is when I did that, they'd come down and sit next to me and try to kind of get me talking and get me back to being the fun guy that I was. And what that's doing is getting them to put in the effort, right? And the more they do that, the more they start convincing themselves, why am I doing this? I must like this guy, right? The other way you can do it is with a girl you're dating, right? Where you have to be conscious. Like a lot of guys, when they have a really, really, really good date with a woman, they immediately want to double down on that, right? And tell her, oh, we got to do another date and we got to do this, right? But one of the more interesting things to do is to leave some uncertainty there, right? And the next time you see her, just be slightly less engaged with her, right? It could be something as simple as just not putting in that, when a conversation is dying down and it's a girl you like, you're kind of like, you don't want there to be any dead air and you want to talk and you want to fill all the conversation. But if it's somebody you don't really care about as much, you're kind of like more comfortable with the silence because you're like, I don't need to impress this person. Something as simple as taking that attitude of like, I don't really need to fill silence and be so talkative today, that's going to come across as slightly cold, right? Because you're less interested than you were last time, and that's going to pique her interest. That's going to intrigue her, right? Because it's going to get her thinking about you. It's going to create that sort of mystery. It's going to kick that ego validation in of why is he not as into me this time? All of those reasons make hot and cold a really, really good attraction tip. And like I said, I have a quiz that I really recommend taking. It's a new quiz that I just created. 7 questions. And your answers to the 7 questions craft your attraction profile, right? I did a lot from working with literally thousands of clients over the last 12 years. I realized that there's certain types of guys, and the answers to these questions reveal what type of guy you are. And more importantly, what mistakes that specific type make, right? So if you're one type of guy, you're gonna be prone to be making certain mistakes. And then the video is gonna show you how to fix those mistakes for your custom type, right? Completely free. I don't ask for your email or anything. You just literally answer 7 questions and then it formulates a custom response for you. You can click the link below to take that quiz. If you like this video, leave a comment. Let me know what you'd like to see me discuss in the next video, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already.